Hello everyone, I am Martin Araujo and I am going to be presenting my findings on influenza season in the US for the exercise 10 of Career Foundry. In the US, we observe an influenza season where more people than usual suffer from the flu and has to be hospitalized. Some of these cases sometimes end up in death. So to face this pandemic, more medical staff should be sent to critical states. That is why our goal is to determine whether influenza occurs seasonally or not, as well as to provide information for a better distribution of medical personnel and prioritize the state with large vulnerable population. About influenza seasonality. For this analysis of seasonality, we have used two different datasets: CDC influenza death registry on our left side of the screen and CDC lab test survey on the right side of the screen. In both cases, we have used 2014 values as they were the most recent, complete, and accurate value to perform this analysis. In both cases, we can see that influenza season starts in November, December, and they finish in April. We can also see that most affected people is adults over 85, but we are going to see this in the next slide. About week 53, we have to say that it's usually a very short week with 1 or 2 days. So, who is most affected by influenza? Most affected people are adults over 65, what we call vulnerable groups, especially adults over 85. We can see on this chart here. And then what we have analyzed is the proportion of vulnerable group in every state, which brought us to these 5 states that are Florida, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maine, and South Dakota, with the highest proportion of adults. Here we can see, for example, Florida has 25% of its population over 65 years. So in these cases, we think that it would be interesting to implement a vaccination campaign, as we know that this reduces the chances of being hospitalized and eventually lose life among these vulnerable groups. So now we are going to see evolution in numbers. Here in this slide, I wanted to show the proportion of influenza deaths compared to the total population in each state since 2009, and here we can see how Hawaii has been increasing the number of deaths every year continuously. So it would be interesting in the future to get some insights about why Hawaii is increasing the figures every year like this. Now we are going to do an regional analysis, and we are going to analyze how influenza deaths are distributed in each state in the year 2015. On the right hand of the chart of the slide, we can see in the map color with darkest red, as for example here in Pennsylvania, the higher number of deaths and the number of deaths per million inhabitants. On the left side of the chart, we can see the same information, ordered in descending order, and adding with color the proportion of vulnerable population on each state. For example, what called our attention is that in West Virginia is having the larger vulnerable population. Is one of the larger vulnerable population, about 24%. Um, but it only gets a medium to low deaths in this state, 199 if we compare with Hawaii, for example, that has only 23% of the population over 65, and it has 322 um, deaths per million inhabitants. So basically, we are going to send more medical staff to these states that they have the darkest color, the darkest red color, and they have the larger amount of death per million inhabitants. For example, Mississippi, Alabama, Pennsylvania, New York, and Hawaii, that is here with 322 deaths per million inhabitants. So basically, our proposal it's is to perform a vaccination campaign for adults over 65 years on the state that they have a larger proportion of elderly people in the state, as for example Florida, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maine, and South Dakota. And the most important thing that we are going to propose is to send additional medical staff, that is nurses, physician assistants, and doctors, between November and April. That is the seasonality of influenza, and we hope to um, save life with this proposal that then we are going to perform some KPIs to follow up our proposal and the measure that we have implemented here. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you have enjoyed the presentation.